Welcome to TRP, everybody. I'm Scott. Today I'm joined by singer-songwriter James Clark, whose band, the James Clark Institute's latest record, The Color of Happy, produced by Moe Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness, has been out for just over a year now, has done extremely well. He has a new song out now called Marcella Never Got the News. He's performed worldwide, including at the iconic Cavern Club in Liverpool. James Clark is with us. How you doing, James? How are you?
I am well. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. It's about time we finally got here.
Can't believe it. For real? Is this for real? I don't know.
We've been trying to do this for a while. If kids had COVID, I have COVID, everybody's got COVID. Lockdowns, shutdowns, everything else. We haven't been able to do this until now. So it's about time. It is great to finally chat.
Exactly. Let's have some fun.
I want to talk, obviously, about this record, which I've had for just over a year. Got it signed and everything because I know people who know people. It's a great record. I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about, to start off, I want to talk about the new song, the latest single, Marcella Never Got the News. It's a beautiful song. For those that don't know the story, tell us a little bit about that song and how you got involved with it.
Okay. It's a long story, but I'll give you the Coles Notes version, or I'll try to. So yeah, it's a song about a plane crash that happened in Saskatchewan back in August of 1959. It was a small Cessna plane with two people on board, and they were traveling in. They encountered some really heavy fog during the flight, and unfortunately, I understand that they did try to turn around, but unfortunately they crashed into a small lake in Saskatoon, and they were never. The plane was never found. They did many searches for it, but the plane was never found until 2018, when it was found using sonar technology at the time. And so this is where I get involved. So the pilot of the plane, Ray Gran, was married to a woman named Marcella. Marcella was pregnant at the time with their child, Linda, and Linda was born just a few months after the crash. Linda grew up and married a friend of mine, Don Capusta. Don's father, Michael, actually delivered me into the world. Oh. So yeah, so I've known Don for many years. So he asked me if I would like to write a song. First of all, it was a documentary that was being made. And this is all pre-COVID.
Right.
So he asked me if I would write a song for this documentary that's being made on the crash and the retrieval of the plane. And I was involved with The Color of Happy at the time. I thought, wow, how do I have time to write this? And I knew this had to be a special song, so I wasn't sure if I had time to do it. I reached out to a friend of mine, Henry, who is a lyricist, a bit of a poet. I asked him if he'd like to co-write the song. This was on a Friday morning. He came back to me on a Monday morning with two completely different sets of lyrics, and I gravitated towards one more than the other because one was written from Marcella's point of view, and I thought this could make a very nice song. So, anyways, yeah. So we wrote the song very quickly, and I sent it to Don, and he said that he and Linda got very emotional when they heard it and loved it. And we were about to talk about recording the song, and then COVID hit, and then nothing. And so Don contacted me out of the blue this past April and said, "Hey, still want to do something with this song?" And so in the meantime, during COVID, there's been a book that's been
I was going to say she wrote a book about it as well, right?
Victoria Hetherington is
okay.
The author. She found the story online somewhere and said, "Wow, this has got to be a book." So she reached out to Don and Linda and said, "Hey, I'd love to write this book." So yeah, and so he contacted me in April, said, "Do you want to record the song to coincide with the release of the book?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." So I reached out to Moe Berg, and he was happy he wanted to get involved and produce it. And so we did that. It was all it was a scramble to get it all together because at the time the book launch was supposed to be out in June, and this was April, middle of April. It's all happening. So it's a scramble, and then the book launch got postponed till this past, I guess, 2 weeks ago, August 20th. We did it out in Saskatoon, and I went out and played the song solo for the book launch. It was in this airplane hangar. Amazing. I've never played in the airplane hangar before, so it was fun. So yeah, there you go.
That sounds like it sounds like it could be not just a documentary or a book, but it sounds like the type of story that could be made into a movie. You know what I mean?
It could be, yeah. It's a very interesting story with lots of twists and turns to it. And the saddest part for me, which really got to my heart, was that when they were searching for the plane, they didn't want to tell Marcella that they were searching for her because she was elderly and not all that well, and they didn't want to get her hopes up at the time. So the night that they retrieved the plane, it was getting late. They said, okay, we'll call her in the morning and tell her the good news. She passed away that night. So she didn't get the news that this was happening. So I thought that was really sad.
That is an incredible story. I want to talk about The Color of Happy.
Yes.
It's been out since last May. Excellent record. I mentioned produced by Moe Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness. How did that relationship with Moe start? Where did you guys hook up, and how did he get involved with producing your music?
Well, it's actually he produced some tracks on the previous record called Yesterday's Misadventures, and I've known Moe for over 20 years. I met him. I was playing drums in a surf band in Toronto, and he was friends with the guitar player, and he was brought in to. We talked about him producing our second album, and unfortunately it didn't work out for whatever reasons. But we kept in touch, and whenever I would release some music, I would give him a copy of it and say, hey, let me know what you think, and so we kept in touch, and we always talked about working together. We should work together sometime, and so finally on the last album it came to be, and he produced 6 songs for me on that, and I think we both had a great time working together. I know I did, and so I reached out to him again about producing The Color of Happy, like the whole album, all 10 songs, and he was happy to do it, and I think it worked out really well.
I interviewed Moe about I think at the time that he was in the studio with you recording this record, and he had nothing but good things to say about it. So it was interesting for me to hear it down the road when it was released, and I finally heard it. So
That's great.
you hear I've heard reviews about this record. You hear reviews about any new record that comes out. Obviously, any review involves some kind of comparisons. The ones that I've heard from this record have been anything from Elvis Costello and Joe Jackson to, you can obviously hear Moe's influence on the record. I hear, when I listen to it, I hear almost like 90s Canadian, The Odds, Sloan, that kind of vibe that I got from it. There's also a Beatles influence that I hear. Obviously, you're a big Beatles fan. Where do you draw your inspirations from as an artist, and maybe more specifically as a songwriter?
Well, probably all of those artists that you just mentioned, big influences on me at different times in my life. Sure, it all started with the Beatles as a kid, and as a kid, I wanted to be a drummer in a band, and the Beatles were really a big influence for me. But as I got older and I was drawn more into songwriting, and I just listened to everything I could, and I always was gravitating towards artists that seemed to put a lot of emphasis on their lyrics. Lyrics are really important to me. Melody and lyrics are really the 2 things I go for myself when I'm writing. But lyrics are really important to me. So yeah, so any artist.
The first thing that jumps out at me when I listen to this record was melody. Was the melodies on it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, melody. Well, again, melody is very important. But I like happy melodies for the most part, with lyrics that when you listen to them, you realize, oh, not really happy lyrics. There's some dark to these. So I don't know. That seems to be my specialty. I don't know.
There's
I don't plan it that way, but that's the way it always works out for me.
There's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite bands is the Beautiful South. There's nothing quite like a happy melody and the darkest lyrics known to man.
I know. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I mentioned the Beatles. I don't think there's any artist that doesn't count the Beatles as an influence, but you got to travel to England and go to Liverpool, spend some time seeing the sights and some of these iconic things that we've heard in their songs over the years. You got to play on that stage, the Cavern Club stage. What was that experience like for you, just being there and surrounded by that Beatles, essence?
Right. It was magical, absolutely magical for me because I grew up, like I said earlier, with the Beatles, and you how many times have I seen Hard Day's Night and Help, and you see the UK, and it was always magical to me. I mean, the first time I went to the UK was like 30 years ago. I remember coming out of Charing Cross Station on the tube and coming out on the street, like, wow, this is like, I thought it was in Mary Poppins for a second, because I had seen this forever in films, and I was actually there, so it was great. So playing in the Cavern, yeah, it was amazing. I've had this open door invitation to play it for probably 12 years, and I've played with different members in the Institute, and no one ever seemed to want to go, or they weren't able to go. I thought, come on. So now the guys I'm playing with now were just super enthusiastic about going, so everybody was on board. So it was great to actually finally get there, and it was well worth the wait. Yeah.
Other than just the Cavern Club, did you do the whole Beatles?
Yeah, we actually did the Magical Mystery Tour bus tour. So the bus is actually made up like the bus in the Magical Mystery Tour film. It's a 2-hour bus tour, and it takes you everywhere wherever there's Beatle history, and it was just overwhelming for me. You get to stop, get off the bus at 4 locations. We got off at Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, and Paul's childhood home and George's childhood home, and it was just magical.
That's awesome. That's a bucket list thing for me for sure. I haven't done that yet, but
Got to do it.
the back home now, I assume you've been out playing live and performing and just doing as much live stuff as you can. Obviously, there was a long period there where you weren't able to do that. Making up for it now, what's it been like getting in front of an audience and performing again?
It's amazing. It's amazing. People. Well, I still feel that we're not 100% back, but
No.
The shows we've done have been really great. People have been really enthusiastic about the live music. So it feels amazing to be back again. So we're trying to do it as much as.
Are you out? Have you been doing a tour right now, or is it just sort of gigs whenever gigs come up?
That's it so far. Yeah. I've releasing The Color Happy in the middle of a pandemic was frustrating because we weren't. I would have loved to go off and tour the album, and that didn't happen, obviously. So right now we're just we're playing around town and in the Toronto area, and we're going to start working on the next record very soon, and hopefully next year we'll be able to tour the new album for the next album. That's the plan.
I'm going to give a shout out to PCV Records in Oakville, one of my favorite record stores in the GTA. It's amazing. Anybody who's looking for records, that's the place to go. You being spending your days there, a lot like me when I worked in the industry, one of my favorite things was to recommend records to people, recommending new music to people. What is it that James Clark is listening to? What are you recommending to people right now that's coming?
Oh, wow. I work in a record shop, and I love it. What can I recommend? I don't,
What's on your phone? What's on your phone?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I use my phone to listen to Spotify all the time. Trying to, you stumped me with this. I don't listen to a lot of new music.
That's all right.
I'm still discovering stuff that was released 30, 40, 50 years ago that somehow went over my head. I didn't have a clue about it. So there were a lot of great artists back then that now I'm finding the records. I listen to I love a lot of old 70s R&B and soul. I love listening to all that stuff. Great. Yeah, new music. I'm stumped. I wouldn't know what to tell you.
It's all good. It's all good. You mentioned the new album. You mentioned working on the new record coming up soon. You haven't started that yet? That's still on the
No, in fact, when we stop chatting this afternoon, I'm going to send off 3 demos to Moe. We've been working on a bunch of demos in our space this year. So I'm getting ready now to we're mixing them and going to send them off to Moe. And Moe and I got together last week to discuss the plan to get it going. So plan is to start recording in the fall.
He's producing again, the whole record?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're both excited.
Great. Well, if it's anything like this, I'm looking forward to it because this is a fantastic album for those of those people who have not heard it yet. Available on all streaming services and in stores, this record. The Color of Happy, James Clark Institute. Thank you so much for being with me, James. We've been trying to do 15, 20 minutes for about a year now, and it's been awesome to finally talk about this music.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me finally.
I appreciate your time and good luck with the new album. Tell Moe Record Player says hello, and we'll look forward to the new tunes. Thanks, James.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much.
Take care.